The Neil Diamond albums from the 1960s and the early 1970s are very difficult to get hold of on CD, but this set and this set resolves that issue. Hello and welcome back to Toby Jones Talks Music, where we do exactly what it says on the tin. I am Toby Jones, welcome to the channel if you have not been here before, or welcome back to the channel if you have seen several of these videos. And today we're going to be talking about my favourite Neil Diamond, who hasn't featured on the channel for a long while. It's a welcome return for Neil Diamond. And today we're talking about two box sets, CD box sets, that covered the first 7 or 8 years of Neil Diamond's career. So the CD outputs of Neil Diamond from his first 7 or 8 albums are quite difficult to find on CD. That being because the first 2 albums, The Feel of Neil Diamond and Just For You, both released on the Bang Records label, were never released on CD, so they're going to be particularly difficult to find. But because of the whole supply and demand thing, and because Neil Diamond's records really sold more on vinyl back in the day, there wasn't too much of an outcry for reissues on CD, I guess. And that's the whole supply and demand thing, that there aren't a hell of a lot of those available. That being said, I have got 2 of Neil Diamond's CDs from this period. Neil Diamond's Taproot Manuscript and Neil Diamond's Moods. But in terms of going into charity shops, I found that one in a charity shop, and this one, Taproot Manuscripts, came with a recent Joblot that I've bought, and more on that in a second. So the 2 CD sets that we're going to be covering today were seen in the intro. Those are Neil Diamond, The Bang Years, 1966 to 1968, and Play Me, the Complete Uni Studio Recordings Plus. So just as a bit of a background, we're going into the detail terrifically for those of you who know about Neil Diamond or maybe don't. Neil Diamond's first 2 albums were on the Bang Records label. He then split from Bang Records and went to Uni, and the Uni period is covered on the 3 CD box set, and the Bang Years are covered on this 1 CD box set. So let's look at the Bang Years first. This is a 23 track set, all on 1 CD, so quite neat the fact it's all on the 1 CD. And this contains everything from Neil Diamond's first 2 albums, both The Feel of Neil Diamond and Just For You. As I said earlier, both of the albums were never released on CD, but most of these tracks have been in various compilations, but they're all here together, and that's quite nice because there are several Neil Diamond compilations that I own that club everything together, and sometimes I am just looking for those tracks from the early period. I've said before how the Just For You album plays very much like a compilation, just hit after hit after hit. But this is even better at that because it's got more content on here. And maybe it's unfortunate, maybe it's not, that these aren't in chronological order. So it doesn't go album 1, then album 2, like the other set does that we'll cover in a second. But it's mixed and quite front-loaded, and what I mean by that is that really the best material is at the start of this. So the first 5 tracks, just as a flavour, are Solitary Man, Cherry Cherry, Girl You'll Be a Woman Soon, Kentucky Woman, and Thank the Lord for the Night Time. When I look at this and probably look at the last 5 tracks, you've got Love to Love, Someday Baby, Hanky Panky, The Time Is Now, and Shiloh. Now I love Shiloh, but the other 4 tracks wouldn't rank anywhere near those 5 tracks at the start. So a fair track listing when it comes to this. The only track I can't bear to listen to off this is Hanky Panky. It's corny as ever. The rest of the tracks are all good though. The Time Is Now is the only track that didn't feature on either of these first 2 albums. It was a B-side to Kentucky Woman, and before I listened to this morning, I don't think I'd ever heard that track. Quite rare for an early Neil Diamond track that I haven't heard, and it's almost like a honky-tonk country start-off with the typical Neil Diamond sound thereafter, and it is a decent track. But this most certainly is a great set of tracks from a moment in time, at least. From a packaging perspective, this comes in a digipack. It was originally issued in 2011, redistributed by Capitol in 2014 after they bought his catalogue and bought the Bang Records stuff along with it. It's a nice digipack, but I do have the complaint about digipacks that you can see that this one, unfortunately, is second-hand and it's damaged. You can see that it doesn't quite line up at the end there. And to be able to close the CD up, you have to fold the booklet over the pack if you do it like you normally would. So this digipack, as you would expect, folds out 2 pictures of Neil and the Bang Years. If you try and close it normally, the CD just won't shut. So it came like this. You have to do a trick where you almost open the booklet half full and then it shuts. But that isn't really convenient. But a nice yellow cover, spine on the cover, so it fits quite nicely into the shelf. Actually, I go, oh, I'll get that out. That's one that's quite easy to find. Speaking of booklet, both sets have got really good booklets. This is probably we haven't got page numbers on there, but this is probably easily at least a 10 or 15 page booklet. You can see on this page here the album art for both of the two albums that this comes from. So you've got Just For You in the corner. I can't get my finger over to that corner, but you can see what I mean, in the corner. And then The Feel of Neil Diamond, the album art for that album, is in the middle of the page. But a very good booklet. I do know a fair amount about this period anyway, because I have read, I can't think what his name is, the author now. I don't think it's up here in my bookshelf. It isn't. David Wilde, that's it. He wrote a great book. I haven't read for years, though, called He Is, I Say, about Neil Diamond. I thoroughly enjoyed reading that. So I know a fair amount about this period, but it's always nice to read up on it on the bang years. And I think it's actually the other booklet. We'll look at that in a minute. I've made a note, so I'll come back to that. But this retails between about £5 or £10 on eBay. So it's well worth it for the early stuff of Neil Diamond. So we'll move on now to the Play Me Studio Recordings Plus. Just before we do that, I didn't buy both of these box sets for the retail price. That's because I got these two in a Neil Diamond job lot of CDs, which contained Taproot manuscripts, as I've just showed earlier. The real reason I bought that job lot was to get this, and this is just a quick aside, to get this on CD, and Neil Diamond's Beautiful Noise, which is probably my favourite Neil Diamond album. Hadn't got it on CD, was really desperate for it, and this job lot of, I think it was 13 CDs, worked out at something like £8. It was as cheap as anything. I could be wrong there, but it was a maximum of a couple of pounds a CD. I feel like it was less than £10. It was really, really cheap. So anything else was great, and I'd seen this before and thought, oh, that's really good to have in there. So really cheap in terms of purchasing price, but if you're looking for these individually, this is about £5 to £10 on eBay. I've just seen a completed listing which went, I think, for £5.99 on the bang years, but this second box set is much more expensive, and that is Play Me, the Complete Uni Studio Recordings Plus, and we'll come back to the Plus bit in a little while. This is a 2002 release from MCA Records, and this is in the old-fashioned fat box, which unfortunately this version is slightly damaged. You can just see up the top right, but no great shakes in terms of the content that's listed here. So this features the 6 uni albums across 3 discs. So it features Velvet Gloves and Spit, Brother Love's Travelling Salvation Show, Touching You, Touching Me, Taproot Manuscript, Stones and Moods, as well as a few live selections from the 2 live albums that came out in this period, Gold and Hot August Night. This is expensive. Well, it depends what you judge to be expensive, I guess, but the retail price, at least on eBay, the cheapest one I've seen is £20, and I've seen a few completed listings over the last month that have gone from between £20 to £30. However, there's 2 benefits to this. Firstly, it's a space saver. Obviously, this probably only takes up about the room of about 2 CDs, you know, considering you've got 1 and 2 there. Plus the fact it's probably cheaper than buying the 6 albums individually. You're probably looking at £5-6 for each one, and you might not be able to find 1 or 2. So as an ease of access release, this is definitely the one to get. In terms of the presentation, how the albums are presented, it is a bit frustrating that obviously 6 into 3 doesn't go 1, 1, 1, 1. So you do have overlap from the 6 albums across the 3 discs. So for instance, on disc 1, the first 2 albums are here in full. Then the first 2 tracks of Touching You, Touching Me then goes onto CD 2. And then on CD 2 you get 4 tracks of Stones, then that goes onto CD 3. That's a slight annoyance, but again, nothing major really here. It's just a mild frustration. I think I played this some time ago when I got it. I got this actually a couple of months ago, but I work from home 1 day a week, and on a Wednesday I thought, right, this is easy. I can put that on and that'll take at least a couple of hours. And it was an absolute joy just to listen to all these albums one after the other. This is probably Neil Diamond's most consistent period. After this, we had the Hot August Night live album, of course, but we had Serenade come after that, Beautiful Noise. And then you could probably suggest it was all downhill from here in terms of the consistency of Neil Diamond's releases. What I wanted to show you here is that there's a cracking quote in the booklet here, which sums up my thoughts on Neil Diamond entirely. And it's on the first page, and I thought this is absolutely bang on. Theatrical rock is how Neil Diamond would like his music to be categorised, if there were such a category. But that is really the point, or really quite the point. There is no such genre, for Diamond stands alone, and I think that is absolutely perfection to what Neil Diamond stands for. You can't pigeonhole him in a certain genre. There's some pictures in this booklet as well. There were some pictures in the other booklet, although obviously a little bit earlier from Neil Diamond's career. This, again, I've just actually gone through this booklet and read it over the last hour or so. And again, a nice reminder, a 15-page booklet, a nice reminder of things I already knew, some things perhaps I didn't know or needed refreshing on. But again, this is quite a nice presentation. You've got the 3 discs, so you've got disc 1 here and the booklet, and then on the other side of the fat box you've got disc 2 and disc 3. And just a nicer side, I think it is only on disc number 3. Oh no, you've got disc 1. So behind disc 1 we have the promotional copy of the Play Me 7-inch single, which is a nice little addition. And then for the 3rd disc we have, and this is one of the things I didn't actually know going into this, so this is something that you might not know either. It's got disc 3 is the, what would you call it, inlay art, I guess, for Brother Love's Travelling Salvation Show. But what I didn't know is that originally that album, Brother Love's Travelling Salvation Show, was entirely meant to be a concept album. Didn't work out that way in the end. But, of course, Neil effectively achieved that with the 2nd side of Taproot Manuscript, which came not long after Brother Love's Travelling Salvation Show. So, I had a need to get Neil Diamond's early output on CD, but I wasn't quite prepared to go and buy every album, of course, unless I saw it out and about. And again, that Mood CD was something like 50p, so it was cheap as chips. But I have to be honest, this album, Taproot Manuscript's not my favourite of Neil Diamond's, but because I've got it in the Play Me Studio Recordings, this might just well go back on the internet to sell. I might keep it as a duplicate for a time, but because I've got that Play Me set, it's just easily accessible, all on the one set. And I've got a couple of sets like these that are either complete album sets or sets from a time. It's just nice to have everything in one place, I find. So that's the benefit of having these. So that is Neil Diamond, the Bang Years 66 to 68, and Play Me, the Complete Uni Studio Recordings. So this covers Neil Diamond's first 8 albums. If you want to get anything after that, and that is really Serenade onwards, then you are looking at getting those on CD. And I think that probably anything before the Jazz Singer, I guess, is probably difficult to say that. I'd say the Jazz Singer because the Jazz Singer was 1980. CDs were a bit more prevalent after that, although I haven't got Heartlight or On the Way to the Sky. But certainly from the likes of The Best Years of Our Lives onwards from 88, the CDs are all very accessible. I've probably got all of those on CD. But that's going to be it for the Neil Diamond showcase of both the Bang Years and Play Me. Both come very, very recommended. Probably, though, for, I was going to say real Neil Diamond fans, that's harsh. For hardcore Neil Diamond fans is the better phrase to use. If not, perhaps a compilation is better to get. And the more cost-effective way, certainly, of doing this is getting the Glory Road 1968 to 72 compilation, which is a 2-CD compilation featuring most of the best stuff from the Play Me set, but doesn't feature everything. There's some stuff missing, so to name a few: Holiday in Blues, Practically Newborn, Merry-Go-Round, Deep in the Morning, Cold Water Morning, If You Go Away, and Cantilever. And that's just to name a few, but evidently, if you're going to buy that cheaper compilation, there are going to be some things missing. But if you can cope with that and just kind of want the best stuff from that period, kind of, I guess, like this, where, you know, if you kind of get rid of that stuff, which is no problem with it, the first half of it really is probably the best stuff from that period, then perhaps Glory Road 68 to 72 is the best thing to get. But if you have these compilations, let me know what you think of them down below. Have you bought them as a result of this video? If not, if so, fantastic. And you'll find more of my Neil Diamond content all around the screen in the end screen. I've got a dedicated Neil Diamond playlist up here, which has got all of my Neil Diamond content. And I'm sure around the video there will be some specific Neil Diamond videos that I think might be relevant to you after this video.